So we're ready to reconvene. It is 1 o'clock, and my name is Jovita, Chair of ELC, and Committee Member Dolores Trujillo.
Dolores Trujillo is present.
Perfect. And Committee Member Tricia Nguyen.
Tricia Nguyen is present.
And Executive Officer Lori Melby.
I'm here.
And Reza, our attorney.
Reza Pezierhash, Board Counsel, is here as well.
Thank you. And Dr. McCarthy.
Hi, good afternoon. Yes, I am present and ready to start with continue with 8.8.
Thank you.
All right, agenda item 8.8.6, discussion and possible action regarding acceptance of a substantive change to an approved program. This is West Coast University Baccalaureate Degree Nursing Program, and they are requesting an enrollment increase. The information on this program can be found starting on page 42 of Packet 2. And Board Moderator, if you could please elevate the presenters on the list for West Coast. West Coast University is requesting an enrollment increase in their BSN program to reflect current enrollment patterns at their 3 campuses. Their campuses are in Los Angeles, Orange County, and Ontario. This enrollment increase is consisting of their 220 core nursing students 5 times a year at each campus. Please see page 43 of the packet in order to see the current enrollment and the requested enrollment patterns. And again, the agenda item summary, as always, has more information, as does the executive summary sent by the program. And those are on page 42 to 45. We also have data for you for regions. They're going to be in 3 regions this time. So each campus is in a different region. So it's going to be regions 8, 7, and 9. That's how they are respectively on the list. And this is what has happened at each of those regions in the past 5 years. And this is on page 46 through 48. We do have representatives here and available to answer any questions. Thank you.
So this is a little bit different of an ask, and it's very similar to the previous agenda item today, where in advance of a substantive change, they should have sought board approval. And just like we did with the last program that we discussed, as the NEC reaches out with them, as they work with them, they'll bring them in front of the committee and ultimately the board to try to get them back into compliance. And so this was an enrollment growth that occurred without board approval, so it did not follow the outlines in 1432. And so on discovery of that, we have been working with the program through various processes to get them back into compliance. And so they are here today following our ask of having them to complete a substantive change request for enrollment increase. And some background on that, in the materials, there is a timeline that we requested West Coast University to provide. That is located on page 57 and 58. This shows their records that they are providing to us of how their enrollment went and where it is at today. That is all stuff that would not typically be asked of programs, because the enrollment increase request would have happened prior to them growing, and then we would have been brought in each step of the way for every single enrollment increase. So in this packet, additionally, is board action milestones regarding program growth, starting on page 43. That starts at 2005, and then you'll see that it ends at 2018. And that is when they were brought in front of our education licensing committee, very similar to today. And after following a continuing approval visit where they were noted to be a non-compliant. And so as we did in previous board agenda items today, we talked about the process for bringing students back into compliance when they are noted to be out of compliance. And that follows the regulations 1423.2. So there are several different regulations here that we are kind of addressing. 1432 is a substantive change. 1423.2 is where we look at the board's committee and then ultimately the board's ability to address bringing programs back into compliance. And then ultimately, because this is an enrollment increase, request to grant them approval to enroll their current enrollment numbers. It follows the guidelines that are set forth in the Business Professions Code 2786.2 on what we can consider when looking at enrollment increases. Thank you.
Before we get started on this item, may I ask a question?
Sure.
How did this happen? I mean,
Exactly.
Pardon?
That's what I'd like to ask too.
I mean, I read through, you know, the materials coming into today, and this one absolutely just almost made my head explode. I mean, this seems like a program that knows how to do things, has a relationship with us, you know, has done this before, and then they increased their student enrollment by 1,800 students without going through the process. It just was really surprising to me.
So yeah,
Kristen,
and I'll
thank
try
you
to
for your
I'll try to
question.
some
I would love
background.
to.
So
I think we'll go ahead and respond first.
yeah, we'll respond first. So when a program is approved, they're giving an enrollment number. And that is the enrollment number that stands unless they come back in front of a board where they approve an additional enrollment number. This school did come back in front of the board. And as part of that process, they actually asked for their associate degree program that was originally approved to be changed to a bachelor's degree program. They also went through feasibility processes and they started up 3 separate program approvals. So they had an LA campus, an Orange County campus, and an Imperial Valley campus. Each one of them went through the appropriate approval process and continued to go forward as planned. When the NEC came out after the 2013 continuing approval visit, so what happened in the 2013 continuing approval visit is the NECs went on campus. They noticed that the 3 distinct programs were not being taught in 3 distinct manners and that they were being taught as a similar program. So to clear up that non-compliance, they decided to unify all of West Coast University into one program with a main campus location in LA and 2 satellite campuses, which would include Orange County and Ontario. And so at that point, everything was established. Then going forward, since that's 2013, an NEC doesn't do another continuing approval visit for 5 years. That was in 2018. The NEC went out and did a continuing approval visit, and that is where they discovered that this program had grown exponentially from the original approval numbers. It was stated in the Education Licensing Committee meeting that they were reporting their annual numbers on the BRN program, BRN school report that is done annually. So it was their understanding that was conveyed to us in that meeting that they were in compliance, that they were letting the board know that what their enrollment numbers, and they were reporting it through the annual school survey. At that committee meeting in 2018, the board let them know that the board committee, the Education Licensing Committee, let them know that that was not the process of how to go about and seek enrollment increase approvals. They, through notification of legal movement, stated that they didn't believe that the board had an authority to approve enrollments. And so they were doing their enrollment increases underneath that assumption. So at that point, we went through court hearings it was decided that the board did have the authority. That was appealed, that went to the Court of Appeals. It was then reaffirmed that BRN still had that authority. And there was an appeal period where we were waiting to see if they would file appeal. They did not. Once we got that confirmed, the NEC reached out to the program to ask them to come into compliance through the process of doing an enrollment increase request. And if there might be more legal stuff in there that Reza might want to address, but that is kind of in a nutshell how we got to today.
This is Reza. I appreciate all the history, Lori. For my part, I was just gonna state that there has been a long history of West Coast University, as well as I believe their sister school, basically contending that the board had no authority to regulate enrollment numbers at nursing schools. And I've been working with this board for several years now. It's only these two schools, to my knowledge, that have taken that position. But yes, there was a trial court. Lori mentioned legal movements. There was litigation. West Coast sued for a writ in trial court, which was determined in BRN's favor that our regulation was not an underground regulation. It was challenged again in the Court of Appeal and resolved in the BRN's favor that our regulation was valid. The board has a valid interest in regulating enrollment numbers for a variety of reasons that are explained in the opinion. So I'd be more than happy to talk more about that if committee members have any questions. But that decision having been decided by the Court of Appeal, it's binding, and West Coast is here with an enrollment increase request, hopefully as an indication of their intention to follow the BRN's longstanding authority and practice of regulating enrollment numbers, and now the binding Court of Appeal decision. So again, any questions, please let me know.
Was that helpful, ladies?
And we can hear from West Coast now too, as to their rendition of how this occurred.
Go ahead, Sharina.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Melby. Thank you, Reza, for that account. And also thank you, committee members, for allowing West Coast University to provide additional information in support of our approval of our current enrollment numbers by the California Board of Registered Nursing. I'd also like to thank our NEC, Mary Jane Rosenblatt, who has helped us all along during this process, has been a great advocate for our schools and our students. My name is Kirina Piazza. I'm the program director. I'm also the dean for the College of Nursing for West Coast University, and I have been a nurse for 28 years. West Coast University has revolutionized healthcare education for over a century. WCU is accredited by the WASC Senior College and University Commission, which is recognized as one of the most prominent accreditors in the US. We're also professionally accredited by the Commission on Collegiate Nursing Education, CCNE. We're also seeking accreditation from CNEA and expect full CNEA accreditation in 2024. And we are one of the only and the first schools in California to obtain accreditation for our simulation centers for the Society of Simulation in Healthcare. West Coast University is extremely proud of our diverse population that it serves, with over 70% of its student body reporting to be of minority status. Many of our students speak English as a second language, and the ability to speak a language other than English is an incredibly important skill for the communities of color that our graduates serve. But many of our students would likely be educationally barred or waitlisted at most public institutions in California, which continues to see over 55,000 qualified nursing applicants turned away every year. I'd also like to boast about the academic outcomes of WCU students. For nearly a decade, WCU grads have averaged better than 90% pass rate on the NCLEX. And WCU has maintained an average retention rate of over 90%. I know that was a question earlier. So retention rate, 90%, NCLEX over 90%. Moreover, 90% of the WCU BSN graduates obtain jobs after licensure, and this is evidenced by the loan default rates for our WCU grads, which are among the lowest in the nation. From 2014 to 2022, the default rate with Sallie Mae was 0.0001%. The default rate for the federal default rate for 2019 was 0.002%. Impressively, the average starting salary for a West Coast University BSN graduate is $100,000 per year. And not only are these life-changing careers for our students and their families, but these students are offering a positive impact in the field of nursing for the underserved and underrepresented communities where they go back to work. Allow me at this time, though, to clarify an inaccuracy of the report provided to the committee. Of most concern is a statement that the most recent board approval of WCU's enrollment occurred in 2013, where the board approved a total of 1,500 students, 500 per campus. This is incorrect. In fact, we were never approved for an enrollment cap in 2013 or any time thereafter. In 2013, WCU was approved as a program during the continuing approval cycle for its pre-licensure programs. So for those ELC members who have most recently joined the board, some historical context is helpful here. And since the board has provided their rendition, I will provide ours. In 2008, West Coast University received approval for its BSN program at all 3 of its California campuses. As evidenced by those approvals, WCU was not approved for a specific enrollment number at that time, and I'm sure that you have in your files those approval letters, and I invite you to look at them. At WCU's first continuing approval visit in 2013, there were 2 very important takeaways. First, our NEC at the time, Mio Minato, she stated that the BRN does not set enrollment size or caps for nursing programs. Secondly, and more importantly, even though WCU had demonstrated significant growth between 2008, when we were first approved, to 2013, 70% growth at that time, the BRN did not call out, did not sanction, didn't even raise the issue of WCU's growing enrollment in the 2013 continuing approval visit. I believe that's because the BRN did not have control or manage schools' enrollment patterns in 2018, just as Mio Minato had shared with us. From that time, 2013 through 2018, West Coast University, yes, dutifully reported annual enrollments to the board through the annual report. This was not a university that was hiding our enrollment numbers. And not only did we report our annual enrollments, that enrollment growth was self-evident to the board through the reported NCLEX test takers that same time. In 2018, WCU went through its second continuing approval visit, where it was cited that we had grown. Again, although concern for enrollment was cited, at that point, the board could have recommended an enrollment cap to WCU. It could have set an enrollment cap that we needed to abide by, but the board chose not to do that. The board clearly doubted its legal authority to do so. And the reason why I think that to be the case is because in 2019, the board issued correspondence to all nursing schools stating that going forward, when a program submits an application or is reviewed for approval or continuing approval, the board will not utilize the 1432 guidelines that required nursing programs to seek board approval before increasing enrollments. After August 2018 ELC, we were removed
pardon me.
from the full
Can I
agenda 3 times.
Interrupt you for a moment and ask a clarifying question?
Yes.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but you bring up the board not setting enrollment caps. I'm trying to ascertain whether there's a difference between that and the board approving substantive changes, including enrollment numbers at schools. Is there a distinction that you're?
And my distinction, because the school reports out whatever number we have at that moment, that's just a report out of whatever number we have in that moment in time. To me, when I see that in an approval letter, this is what you're approved. Thank you for being such a great school. You're approved, and this is your enrollment cap. That is what I take as an enrollment cap approval. And that, I just don't want to conflate the fact that you're approved as a program, which is a whole cycle, and the substantive change for increased enrollment. And I feel like that is what's happening here. But if I may, I'd like to continue. So in 2018,
I didn't quite understand what your distinction was, but I'll let you go ahead.
Thank you. Okay. In 2019, I had already said that the BRN had issued a letter where they said that they were not going to be utilizing the 1432 guidelines that required nursing programs to seek board approval for increasing enrollment. Interestingly, so we had our visit in May of 2018. We did go before the Education Licensing Committee in 2018, but then we were removed from the full board agenda 3 times. So when WCU reached out multiple times to seek from the board in 2019 and 2020, the process to approve WCU's enrollment numbers, the BRN refused that opportunity. Furthermore, during the years of the pandemic, 2020, 2021, and 2022, schools were shutting down. Hospitals, repeatedly, hospital administrators thank us today, to this day, for the ability to partner with them during this time of dire need. And we were not about to turn away students when we were never given a cap. The cohort sizes since are and have remained at 220 students per term per campus. Our ask is to be approved for what we have had for the past 2 years, which is 220 students per term per campus. This would have a net neutral impact to our clinical site usage. And this will be our first approved enrollment pattern. Now, we can all agree that following the pandemic, California continues to experience an extreme shortage of nurses, arguably the worst of any state in the nation. If any of you are reading the news as I was this morning, I mean, we're currently witnessing, as I speak, 75,000 striking Kaiser nurses. There has never been more of a need for a pipeline of practice-ready nurses. California Health and Human Services Agency deems the counties of Los Angeles, Orange, and Inland Empire, where WCU has campuses, as having a shortage of registered nurses. In hyperlinks embedded to our application, you'll find letters from hospital executives from a variety of institutions indicating that they need our graduates to continue staffing their hospitals, Put simply, any rollback to our enrollment numbers would directly and immediately impact hospital staffing in Southern California. Our application is also supported by members of the legislature, as seen by the provided letters of support. They understand the important role that WCU plays in providing quality nurses to the state's nursing workforce. As Senator Umberg noted in his letter of support of this application, the state's 2023-2024 budget invested $988 million toward healthcare and nursing education. For the board to take action to limit the number of quality nursing graduates in this state would seem contrary to the legislature's funding priorities. And then I would also like to provide further clarification regarding the issue in the case of a writ seeking approval of our pending application for continuing approval. So it was just stated earlier that yes, the board, the courts did deem that the board has inherent authority to cap enrollments, which is why we're here before you now. And I humbly ask that you do cap us at the 220 per start per campus. But I want to clarify what actually happened during that time. In the underlying case, the AG representing this board told the court that if you follow the process the board is seeking, and if you ask approval of your enrollments, it is most likely going to be granted. That's because the BRN recognized that the West Coast University has the resources, because we do. We have all the resources necessary, and I'm happy to list all of them for you, to successfully educate our students. The court said, that if it was not granted, and I quote, "We are going to wonder about whether or not it's arbitrary and capricious." The appellate court followed the Superior Court's line of reasoning, stating, "Should a nursing program seek board approval for a significant change in enrollment when a program has the physical, clinical, and fiscal resources to support the increased enrollment, and when clinical opportunities through the region will not be adversely impacted by the increased enrollment, the board may have no reasonable basis for withholding approval." But such a fact-intensive question is not before us in this case, and we do not decide the issue here. We simply note that even if the board would have no basis for withholding approval, that does not mean the nursing program should be exempted from seeking board approval. So I will conclude my opening statements just by saying that the BRN's mission statement is similar to ours, right? We want to promote quality nursing, registered nursing in the state of California. Given the extraordinary caliber nursing program that WCU operates, as reflected in our academic outcomes, our NCLEX pass rates, our placement rates, and our very extremely low loan default rates of our students, the board should be eager to approve West Coast University's application for approval of its BSN program at its current enrollment levels. I thank this committee for its time, and I'm open to questions that you might have.
So just for some process points and clarification, one of the questions that you asked, Reza, was enrollment caps. That is not something that the BRN does. We do not put enrollment caps on anything in any program. We set enrollment numbers for an annual process. At any point, the school has the ability to come back and ask for an additional enrollment increase. Therefore, there is no cap. We don't ever say to a school that you can't grow more and that you are capped at this. So with that, we do enrollment approvals. Those are based on requests that are brought forward from the school pursuant to the outlines in 1432. One of the other things that I think would be important for the committee here to hear as some of the stuff that's kind of being said so that we can address that is, excuse me, the board did not issue a letter saying that they wouldn't follow 1432. What was brought up is there is a document that gave guidelines, and that document that gave guidelines had been updated by an NEC as part of our director handbook update that happens annually. And for clarification, the enrollment was added into that form. It was then voted on by our board, by the EO at that time, and working with OAL, saying that they would pull back the use of that form, never stating that they would pull back and no longer utilize 1432. As you can see, that regulation was never repealed, and so that regulation stood. So just some clarification on that point. The other clarification that I do want to put forward is just kind of over process. And so as you guys on the committee know, you guys hear it in Education License Committee, you make recommendation to the board, and then the board ratifies that decision or changes it. And so when you go through the history of West Coast University, in April 2015, their board meeting, they granted initial approval of West Coast University. When you pull the meeting minutes and you pull the materials, the request was for 40 students in fall of 2006. And then in March 8th of 2007, they did an ELC update. As part of that, they had stated in the materials that West Coast University's nursing program has expanded rapidly in the past 10 months. And at the time of visit, there were 167 students enrolled in the nursing courses. They said, even though classroom, computer, student study space were added during the program's first year, classroom space and facility office space are at a premium and limit any further program expansion at this time. When that information was brought forward to the ELC committee, there was comment in that committee as well, letting them know that these are things that you need to come forward and bring forward to the board. In the May 2007, there was another feasibility request, and you guys are going to see these upcoming in the next agenda items, we have feasibility requests and self-study requests, and you'll see how enrollment is addressed in those. So in the May 3rd, 2007 ELC, feasibility was request for the Orange County campus. As on the AIS that was presented to the Education Licensing Committee members, they were granted initial approval and the program started with 53 students in June of 2006 and 40 LVNs. They were completing an 80-week LVN to RN program, and it went on. The program admitted at that point approximately 50 students each 10 weeks. So in the communication that you can pull from the meeting minutes that happened in that, you can actually see where enrollment was starting to be discussed. They were a member of the OCLB Long Beach Consortium, and a letter from Dr. Mary Wickman was submitted. At that point, she was the chair in clinical placement committee for the OCLB Consortium. And following their annual meeting, they recommended a lower enrollment number for West Coast University's new program. And then in the in June of 2007, the board approved the Orange County feasibility. And so what West Coast is referring to is the board action letters. The board action letters at that point were very generic, and it basically, whatever they were brought forward in front of the board for, whether it was a major curriculum revision, a minor curriculum revision, a progress report, or substantive change, that's all that was mentioned on the board action letter. So you do really have to go back into the meeting minutes and look at the prior committee meetings and such like that, and follow that path forward. And if you're not familiar with that process, as most people aren't because they don't work with our Board of Registered Nursing and go through the committee and board approval process, it could be confusing. And so I can see how there could be some confusion on that, but enrollment numbers were set every single time they were brought forth in front of our Education Licensing Committee, as well as our board. In April 18th of 2008, there were two agenda items. There was an agenda item that was requesting the continuing approval. And then there was an additional agenda item where they would get a continuing approval because, and I'll repeat that here. So April 18th, 2008, there were two agenda items. One was for West Coast LA and West Coast Orange County LVN to ADN to be changed to a BSN program. And at that point, they said 30 students to GEs in 9 of 2008, and then nursing courses in 11 of 2009. West Coast University, the other one was for LA, and that was 30 students to GE courses in 11 of 2009, and then nursing courses starting in 11 of 2010. With the anticipated enrollment cycle on both campuses would then be 30 BSN every 20 weeks. In 2013, that is when the three campuses were restructured to one main campus, two branch campuses, with the LA campus being the main and not. And when you pull up the ELC continuing approval visit forms, they do talk about Inland Empire, LA, and Orange County. Those were agenda items 7.2.3, 7.2.2.4, and 7.6.3. The two campuses initially attained approval for the LVN RN program. That was LA in 2005, West Coast in 2008. They were brought forward and they received separate board approval. It goes on through the entire process. So again, it is understandable that potentially West Coast University was not familiar with the process, did not understand that the items that were presented at ELC, where the ELC gave recommendation to the board and the board ratified, we're ratifying the information and the motions that were put forth into the committee meeting. In the materials that were presented, they actually talk about the program having current enrollment of 358 students in general education and 816 students in core nursing programs at the LA campus in the fall of 2009. It goes on and addresses the Orange County campus, saying that their current enrollment was 352 students in general education courses and 919 students in core nursing courses. That additionally continues to go on. The recommendation, and West Coast University is absolutely correct. They attended the Education Licensing Committee meeting in November of 2018, and they were brought back in front of the committee, Education License Committee, in January of 2019. The recommendations that came from those were to, let me try to find it here really quick. And I believe actually, sorry, just have to go through my notes here, was to defer taking action and to go back to the prior board's approval. And at that point, in the 2013 process, when they were unifying the campuses to come into compliance with the areas of non-compliance that were addressed at that visit, they were getting ready to prepare for the Imperial Valley visit, the Ontario campus, and they received a letter from the then program director that gave them current enrollment numbers for what West Coast calls core nursing students. And as you can see in our agenda item summary, we put in the definition of what West Coast considers core nursing, and just making it very clear that that is not a term that our board utilizes, but that is a term that West Coast utilizes as core nursing students. And so they confirmed that they were in compliance with what the board had on file, which was the 500 students at each campus location, and everything was kind of going forward as planned with the 2013 approval, and then second agenda item, which was the major curriculum revision that they requested at that point, and that was to unify all the campuses. So that provided a little bit more clarification, and again, completely understandable if you're just looking at the board action letters. Those board action letters that were done 10 years ago were not clear, and without following the specific steps of going to the committee and understanding that process and then going to the board and having that ratified, that may have been missed.
This is Reza. I don't mean to belabor the point, but I did want to come back to the one issue of enrollment caps. Again, that was confusing to me, and if I was confused, others might have been as well. I heard you say, Lori, that we don't use that terminology, at least enrollment caps. To me, it seems like a kind of an insignificant difference. The board does set enrollment numbers, and that is the school's approved maximum enrollment number until that school decides it's going to request an enrollment increase via the substantive change process. So whether you call it an enrollment cap or an enrollment number, I don't see much of a difference, and the Court of Appeal decision makes it very clear that the board has authority over regulation of enrollment numbers. So with all the discussion about enrollment caps, I wonder if I could have Ms. Piazza speak to just very simply, does the Board of Registered Nursing in West Coast University's view have authority over nursing schools' enrollment numbers?
So as I'm looking at 1432, changes to an approved program on the website, I'm just looking at the history, and since it does show that number 5, amendment of subsection B5 filed 10/14/2022 was operative as of January 1, 2023.
But you're familiar
Yes.
with the Court of Appeal case that
Right.
we're talking about,
I'm
which
just
says
providing
that
context to my
addition of
answer.
that doesn't preclude the board having had jurisdiction with that subdivision not having been added. That was squarely addressed in the case, and I presume you're aware of it, so I don't know why you're referring to that. The question is just simply, does the board have authority over the enrollment numbers?
We are here before you today to ask for approval of 220 students per start per campus. So yes, we're asking for you to approve us at that number now that everything has been clarified. But I do want to make sure that we do recognize that in 2018, the board 1432 did not have enrollment numbers in the language.
Okay,
That is
so
clear.
again, that was addressed in the Court of Appeal decision. So if West Coast is taking the position that you didn't know, you would of course be alone amongst other nursing schools. But the law as the Court of Appeal clarified at that time. So I'm happy to move on from the issue. I think
Well,
it's
just to close this, at the end of the day, I mean, I came prepared to discuss the merits of our institution, which I think is pretty good. I've been here for almost 15 years, so I've seen a lot of process improvement. At the end of the day, it just feels like this is just about the authority and the power of the board. And if this is what we need to discuss, I don't know that I'm prepared to discuss that. I would love to talk about our nursing program, though.
I'd love to hear about your program, the merits of it. I really didn't want to go into the history of the litigation and the authority and all that, but you brought up this issue of enrollment caps. And again, that introduced some confusion about, the authority, and that's kind of where it started for me.
I agree. It's so confusing. I mean, but we can't rewrite the past. We can't rewrite what past administrations have done, how they've written letters, how they've exercised whatever authority they felt they had or didn't have. So what I'm really looking to do as a director of this program is to get us approved at 220 per campus per start. Why? Because we have all the resources to our students, our faculty, our clinical partners, our employers who are begging us to give them a pipeline of ready practice nurses so that we could ease some of the burden of our current nursing staff right now, as we see in Kaiser. So that's really what I'm prepared to do. I'm ready to rattle off a list of all the things that we do. So come at me with your questions, please.
Okay. Also, I heard you say earlier something about you had students applying, and if there were students applying, you wouldn't turn them away, which also, again, just triggered me, given that.
Did I say that?
Something to that effect, at least that.
But let me tell you this, we do have a lot of interest, a lot. I mean, we've been around now a while, and we have a lot of credibility everywhere. And
what you said was we're not about to turn away students when we're not given a cap. Something
what we were saying was during the time of most need during the pandemic, I was just offering that if there were nurses who were eligible to be in our program and we had the space and the resources, we weren't about to turn them away. That's all I was saying. Oh,
okay. But now we're clear that there's a process for that.
There's clear. So I'm just so happy that if we are approved at 220 per cohort, per campus, absolutely.
Great.
Thank you.
With that, I think let's hear more about the program or any feedback that the committee members have.
I love that.
Well,
I have a question.
You go first. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. I'm looking at your NCLEX pass rates, and I have a concern. I'm sure you know what that concern is. For your North Hollywood campus, you're down to 73.12%. So you're looking at, let's just say, out of every 100, you are looking at approximately 26, 28 people who are not passing the NCLEX. I'm looking at your Inland Empire, Ontario campus, and while you're barely passing at 76.69%, it's not exactly admirable numbers for NCLEX pass rates.
That was a year ago, Dolores. The current numbers are 82.19 for Inland, just so you're aware that it did come up.
It came up a little bit, but I'm looking at North Hollywood, LA, especially.
Yeah, so I'd like to speak to that. Thank you. We take very seriously any student that does not pass NCLEX. Let me just start with that. We have, with our new vice president for nursing, she really has it in her heart also to start this no nursing student left behind. So we are working on a process to embrace all of those students who did not pass NCLEX. But let me talk about our current NCLEX pass rates. Right now, we logged in our official Q2 NCLEX scores with Los Angeles being at 89.3%, Inland Empire being at 94%. And we have maintained those numbers even this quarter, as you know, that we just ended a quarter just now. We're very proud of the fact that when we all came back on campus, because we are a ground program. And let's not forget that the last 2 years, when the world is brought to its knees in pandemic, the whole nation saw a decrease in NCLEX. And so West Coast was part of that. And we recognized very clearly that our students really enjoyed that face-to-face human contact and learning. So as soon as we were able, according to the different ordinances of the different cities, we brought them back on campus, we brought them back into clinical. As you can see, we have bumped right back up to what we have enjoyed for the last 10 years, not decades, the last 10 years of NCLEX pass rates over 90%. Actually, for a long time pre-pandemic, that was our crown jewel. And that was why students all of a sudden wanted to come to our school. You know, as one of my colleagues said, students vote with their feet, and they're coming. And they know that we, through the resources that we provide with ATI, with our department that dedicates a whole team just for NCLEX prep, that they will be provided the resources that they need to be successful, not only to persist through our nursing program and get a beautiful diploma, but also get their RN license, because to the point that somebody made earlier, you can't work unless you've got a license. And then again, we have another robust career services placement team that ensures that once those students not only have their diploma and their license, they're ready to serve the communities. So to answer your question, while we do have a subset of times where we did dip, we are addressing that, but we have come right back up, and we are assured that with the resources, with everything in place now, with our students on ground and learning as they are accustomed to, that we will maintain those pass rates as we have for the 10 years prior.
Now, just to be clear, those are quarterly pass rates that she is referencing. Those are not an annual pass rate. And so she is talking in quarterly. In annual pass rates, starting in 2017, 2018, when they were part of the continuing approval visit that kind of started this process, their pass rate was 92%. Then the following year dropped to 91.23%. The following year it continued to drop now to 90.55%. And then it dropped to 87.1%. And then it dropped to 80.58%. And so in that 5-year time period, there was about a 11.5% drop in the NCLEX pass rates as they continued to kind of grow. Now, to their point, nationally, the NCLEX did see a drop during COVID. That is accurate and not to be dismissed. However, when we did reach out to NCSBN let us know that overall it was a 6% drop that happened, not a 12% drop. And so that this program, if you do look at it cumulative like that and take into consider COVID, it was double what the nation had seen versus 6%. And then they are experiencing 12%. So that is definitely significant, that would need to be looked at. And then having one campus that is actually not in compliance with our rules and regulations, that is a campus, that location is specifically at risk because it is underneath the 75% threshold for our BRN standards.
And I'm really glad we brought up, because we have the 3 campuses in 3 very distinct geographical locations with 3 very distinct demographics. And we have a large share of, as I mentioned in my introduction, of students who do speak English as a second language, who are single parents, who are just trying to do their best. Under the circumstances, nursing school is difficult. Then we pivot to online learning, which I think we did rather well. But online learning is not for everybody. Even our faculty, who are the best performers face-to-face, they had an adjustment period. So during that time, was there a drop? Yes, there was. But truly, the fact that we embrace students from all walks of life and the diversity of our students we do our very best to ensure that we give them very personalized attention and resources. And given that we do have these resources for our students, I think that's why you're seeing that our pass rates are climbing up, because truly in the last, as if you were to average the last 2 quarters, and Ms. Melby is correct, we don't have yet like the a full year's worth of data to show you, but we are steady. We're steady in the LA campus being 93%, the Inland Empire, and LA meaning North Hollywood, just so that everybody understands it's not in the heart of LA, it's in North Hollywood. Inland Empire also in the high 90s, and Orange County just knocking it out of the park, like just shy of 100%.
I have a couple of comments.
Yes,
if
Ms.
it's
Nguyen.
my turn. Yeah. Ms. Piazza, thank you. It's always nice to see somebody who's so proud of their program. And, I know you have a lot of reasons to be, but really every program that comes in front of us is proud of their program. And a lot of them have really great test scores and low attrition rates, and they feel like they're serving underserved populations. So, I'm really pleased to hear how well you're doing, but a lot of programs are doing really, really well, and we see them all. So you're well in the mix, and that's a lot, and that's something to be proud of. I would never approve an item like this that increases enrollment at just such an alarming level, except I understand why we've gotten here, but we really have to balance the interests of all of the programs. And when one program comes in and snarfs up 1,800 positions, and I know that you have them, but they're almost kind of ill-gotten gains, even though I know there was a lot of misunderstanding, it does disadvantage other programs. So that's what I'm kind of struggling with. This enrollment increase you're asking completely dwarfs every single enrollment increase I've ever seen. And I've been here 2 years, and I really do pay attention. I've been on this committee the whole time. So I am really struggling with this item today. And I'm very concerned about what it does to other programs in highly impacted areas like Orange County and Los Angeles County. The Imperial Empire is a little bit different, just because I don't think it's the other programs are kind of so stacked up, but people do come to us every single committee and ask for enrollment increases. And this one is just kind of staggering. So that's kind of where I am right now.
Thank you for your feedback, Ms. Nguyen. And as a director for this program, the reason why I'm so proud, as you had noted earlier, was because our concern also is for the 55,000 potential applicants that are turned away, that are not able to get into the program and become a nurse and serve the community. I feel like we're part of that solution. So despite whatever history, messiness not, what we're asking for truly is just to keep us at our net neutral, where we are, where we have been the last 2 years. So we, everything, there's a homeostasis in a way that's been happening, where we would not be, if we are approved today, we're not taking away anymore. In fact, what we're trying to do is we're really trying to reach out and bridge relationships with those who feel like we're very big. We are. And because we are big, and because our outcomes are so good, we are producing great nurses. And that's why I think our clinical partners, our employers are so thankful to us. And so for any students, any faculty who might be listening to this, I'd also like for you to be proud of the solution that you're part of. And no matter what happens today or in November, nobody can take that away from us. But yes, I understand your concern, Ms. Nguyen. This is a different of an ask, but really it's an ask just to stay neutral where we have been the last 2 years, which is 220 starts per cohort per campus.
So to provide some additional clarification on some of the comments that were just made, it was mentioned applicants, and I want to make sure that we're clear. It's not applicants, it's applications. There is no way for the Board of Registered Nursing as well as the National Council of State Boards of Nursing to capture the individual person. What is reported is how many applications are received and how of those applications received, placements that occur from that. There is a large discussion happening at the national level where they will look towards processes to address that so we can actually capture the individual person versus the number of applications. One of the items that we've talked about in previous board members are these online systems. One is called Nursing CAS, and that is where one student can go in and submit one application, and that application is farmed out to 200 or 300 schools. And so that is one person creating 300 applications. And so it is not the numbers that are reported in our annual report that talk about applications are not applicants. So I want to make sure that that is very clear, that 55,000 number is not individual people. It is the amount of applications. The other thing to address, and I did hear that there was a call out to the nursing students and the faculty on this. So I think this is the appropriate time to absolutely address them. No matter what today's recommendation is or the November board meeting's recommendation, the students that are currently enrolled in West Coast University will not be adversely affected at all. Every student, every faculty that is currently at West Coast University, this enrollment approval, change, whatever it may end up being, does not affect current enrollments. It affects and addresses enrollment going forward. So there are 3,300 students essentially at each academic location. That is mentioned in the AIS that potentially that number is less than what it truly is at each one of the campus, because we did not get the numbers of what West Coast enrolls into their general education courses. But in their nursing core courses, which start year 2, semester 1 with the fundamentals of nursing, that is a 2-year process. It's about 1,100 each one, and we have those numbers, so we can infer back. That number doesn't change people that are currently enrolled. So if there are 3,300 students enrolled at the LA campus, those 3,300 students will continue to be enrolled until they graduate 2 to 3 years from now. If there are 3,300 students enrolled at the Orange County campus, those 3,300 students will continue to be enrolled and graduate 2 or 3 years from now, identically to the Imperial Valley, Ontario location. This committee's recommendation, the board's motion are for future enrollments and will not have any adverse effect on students enrolled prior to that board decision. Additionally, when you look at the Education Licensing Committee recommendation that was given in 2013, when they asked West Coast to come back into compliance with the prior number, they gave them 6 months to do so. In alignment with 1423.2, part of that, when we have a student have a program that is in a non-compliance, we give them a timeline, and it says, the board shall provide specific requirements for correction of non-compliance findings and a return date for the review of the program's approval status. So when the committee or the board makes that recommendation, and if it is different than the 220 5 times a year at each campus, the board or the committee will give the recommendation to include a timeline for correction. And that allows for the school to adjust fiscally and address any of the issues that come from that, so that that can be a successful process moving forward. So please, students and faculty that are on the line here, understand that this discussion, this motion, these recommendations, anything that occurs will not adversely affect you in your current standing today, and the board will not stand in the way of you progressing and graduating by making any of this recommendation for West Coast to potentially adjust any future enrollment cycles into their program.
Ms. Piazza?
Yes.
You keep stressing that you want to stay neutral and keep your current enrollment pattern the way it is. But that enrollment pattern over the year, or the years, plural,
I'm
has,
sure we'll get used to it.
somebody has that enrollment pattern over the years has gobbled up a lot of the clinical space in Southern California. And it has adversely, to some extent, affected other schools. Because they didn't reach out to you does not mean they weren't adversely affected. We've had to deny enrollment increases because of impacted areas in Southern California. Some of those schools have made decisions to move in less impacted areas. But your school, in essence, overall has gobbled up most of the clinical space, a lot of the clinical spaces in Southern California. And keeping it neutral for you is a very high enrollment number, probably for us, for the area. The clinicals, how do you rotate your clinical spaces? Are most of your spaces in hospitals, or can you just enlighten us as
Sure.
to
Thank you, Ms. Trujillo.
clinical rotations?
Sure, and I understand how it's very easy to seem to want to correlate our size with gobbling up all the sites. But I assure you that if there was clinical displacement, then I would have known about it. I'm confident that the board, if they're hearing any complaints, they're not going to leave the major party out of the solution, right? So first of all, I do hope there are no complaints out there that we're aware of, that we're not aware of. And second, if there are, I really would like to know some specificity of who, what, when, the date, the rotation, all that, so that we can address them. So to address how we do our rotation, let me just start by saying that we work really hard at not displacing other programs. And we work with new and existing clinical partners. We don't believe that our relationship and our rotations have resulted in the displacement of other schools, students, and as required by the California Board of Nursing, our clinical sites have been approved. And the clinical agency has signed, indicating no school has been displaced. Those EDPs there are three, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, there are 3 signatures. And the signature is from the clinical agency, then myself, the director, and then our NEC. So it goes through a rather rigorous process, and every one of those EDPP 18 does have a statement that says that there has been no clinical displacement by our very specific request. In conjunction with our application, we've also submitted a crosswalk to the committee that demonstrates not only that we have the clinical capacity to support our current enrollments, but that we're doing so in a broad and academically diverse clinical environment. So to your question, Ms. Trujillo, so we don't rely on these large magnet premier hospitals only because we recognize that not all our nursing students want to end up at one of those. They might want to be in primary care. They might be someplace else. So what we do is we work with local clinics, small family practices to offer a tapestry of clinical experiences, as long as we make sure that they meet our course learning outcomes, and we have an EDPP on file with the 3 signatures, we're good to go. We do listen to our students. If in the end we discover that it's not quite the experience that they desired, then we look to see how it is that we can make changes in the future. But to the extent that any school claims that they're being displaced, specifically by WCU, and not just because we exist, I would respectfully ask for them to identify the site, date, and specific rotation where they claim that they were displaced. I was just having a lunch with a colleague, and I asked, I go, why does it seem like there are all these people who aren't happy with West Coast and I haven't heard a thing? And she said to me, they don't want to ask you. They just want to blame you. Well, that's not good enough. We are a very solutions-oriented organization. If other directors haven't met me, I welcome the opportunity to dialogue with them. I'm not scary. So that's what I would like, really moving forward, if that is the case, because then otherwise we're just a very convenient, somebody that they could say, oh, it's their fault. That's not fair. That's not fair to our students. That's not fair to our faculty, our leadership, who work very hard to produce this high caliber nursing program. So we do go to many different places, and Mary Jane comments on that all the time, but often with her return email with approval, she even gives her commentary, said, this would be a really good experience for your students. This is great. Look, they're going to be able to experience this, that, and the other. So that edifies me to know that despite all of our different clinical experiences that we provide to our students, that there is value. Because as I said, not every student wants to end up at a premier magnet hospital and do acute care.
So Dolores, I can provide some additional explanation to that process that's being talked about with the EDPP 18s. The EDPP 18 is a helpful form that the programs and the NECs use to come in compliance with 1427. And I will read some of the excerpts from 1427, and that is where our NECs approve clinical placements for each one of the programs. As part of that, it says that a nursing program shall not utilize any agency or facility for clinical experiences without prior approval by the board. Each program must submit evidence that is complied with the requirements of subdivision B, C, and D of the section and policies outlined by the board. Each one of these sections goes through some specific requirements. The one that they're referring to says it's D, and it says, in selecting a new clinical agency or facility for student placement, the program shall take into consideration the impact that an additional group of students would have on a student of other nursing programs already assigned to the agency or facility. Now, that says in selecting the agency, the program shall take into consideration. And so the NEC and our board relies on that for that specific statement. And that is the signature that's obtained there, is that the program director has done what they shall do from the program standpoint to ensure that that is done. Additionally, in B, there's a discussion on there that says, there's a statement, sorry, not a discussion, that says a program that utilizes an agency or facility for clinical experiences shall maintain written objectives for student learning in such facilities and shall assign students only to facilities that can provide the experience necessary to meet those objectives. When the NEC gets a request for clinical approval, the NEC does look to see if these clinical placements can meet objectives. It is true that not every clinical placement can meet every clinical objective. And so the process is that the school is the one that is responsible for providing clinical placements to the students so that they can meet and obtain the entire clinical objectives for each one of the program, each one of the courses that they offer that have these clinical components. And so if the NEC approves a hospital rotation, that is because they have looked and said, yes, some of the objectives can be met by this, not all. Again, it says that the program shall maintain written objectives for student learning in such facilities and shall assign students only to facilities that can provide the experiences necessary to meet those objectives. That is a program role, not an NEC role. The NEC, when they approve that program, that facility, is to approve them based on the merits that the program has done the research, that they believe that their objectives can be met by utilizing these clinical facilities. And there are multiple clinical facilities that are approved. And it is the program's responsibility to ensure that all of those objectives can be met. When reviewing the EDBP 11, Mary Jane noted with review of working with the SNEC, the chief of licensing, and myself, that clinical experience were not similar from campus to campus and may not be similar from person to person. And that was raised as an issue of concern to this program. And a sample schedule was asked for and additional explanation of how these clinicals are utilized. And they did affirm that they didn't do these community-based ones, and this is what West Coast has affirmed here today as well, is that they have a variety of experiences. Now, when you look at their clinical evaluation tools and you look at their syllabi, you look to see whether or not that they have resources, but they have an adequacy of resources, right? So they may have a number of approved clinical placements, but those placements might not be adequate in the way that they're currently utilizing them. It doesn't mean that they can't alter the way that they're utilizing them and rotate students through or make sure that all students have equitable experiences. But the way that it is currently set up, it does show that there might be some potential where clinical objectives are not being met on a consistent basis by each one of the students because of these various clinical rotations. And so that was a concern. I believe that the receipt of the sample school schedule was received by our NEC on Friday evening. And I have not heard a follow-up on whether or not that was affirmed or not. But in some of the documents that were received to the NEC, we asked for this form called an EDPP 11. That EDPP 11 shows every single course with a clinical. It then shows the theory instructor that's assigned to it. It shows each one of the clinical instructors that are assigned to that course, and it shows each one of the clinical rotations that are assigned to that course as well. And you can march that back. So on that document, it does show that they have enough theory faculty to manage their students. It does show that they have enough clinical placements to manage their students. And it does show that they have enough clinical instructors to manage their students. But on further review, when you pull and put it towards the 1427 and showing that the program shall not place them unless they're able to meet those objectives of the course, that is where it starts to bring areas of concern. And when you look at the course objectives, for example, the one that was brought up was the pediatric rotation, where there was discussion amongst the NEC and the program director on that. They have, as part of the syllabi, they have some course learning outcomes, and they are fairly generic. It says demonstrate a specialized knowledge in health assessment and wellness promotion for children, integrate nursing process and therapeutic communication skills in obtaining health history and nursing assessment of the health status of pediatric patients, establish appropriate nursing applications utilizing the nursing process, utilize the nursing process in applying therapeutic care to pediatric patients, evaluating a teaching plan for patients and their family, implement evidence-based practice using pharmacological, physiological, and behavioral sciences in evaluating therapeutic care to patients and families in a variety of settings, provide advocacy for children in leadership management roles, evaluate one's own practice in relation to established standards of care, and evaluate the resources in the community that enhance maintenance of health and prevention of illness in children. As you can tell, that those are not specific to community settings or acute care settings and could be managed throughout any of their clinical rotation. But then you take a look at their evaluation tool. And the evaluation tool that's used for these students to successfully complete talk about core competencies. And in the core competencies, there are in there where it says participate in quality improvement processes in a healthcare setting. When you're not assigned a healthcare setting, it would be questioned how that core competency is obtained. Then there's another one in there that talks about demonstrate safe, timely administration of medications, stating pharmacological implications as they relate to the adult patient with multiple health alterations where applicable. This is a form that is used by multiple levels. There are 211, 223, 316, and 317. So that doesn't clearly define PEDS, but it is there, and it talks about medication administration. It also talks about incorporating the national patient safety goals in delivery of care. And there are many parts of those national patient safety goals that talk about nursing specific healthcare related goals that may not be able to be obtained on some of these more community-based rotations. And so that again just raised some concern. Just saying, okay, you have resources, but what is the adequacy of those resources? And are the students that are getting those rotations getting the same experience and preparation as the students that don't get those, that may be going to a hospital setting or at least a healthcare facility and not a daycare setting or anything of that sort? So those are just some of the questions that were brought up. Not saying that they don't have resources, but definitely saying that there might be additional work that needs to be done to ensure that their students have an equitable experience. That is not an area of non-compliance, to be very clear. That is specifically just concerns that are raised when evaluating the adequacy of resources of the students that are currently enrolled.
And I really appreciate, Ms. Melby, that you did clarify that that is not an area of non-compliance. And in fact, during the several phone calls that we had with Ms. Rosenblatt prior in preparation, she was very clear because we wanted to make sure, and she really wanted more clarification. So what confuses me a little bit, and perhaps you can help me with this, that's just on page 32 of our director's handbook that offers a whole section on alternate pediatric clinical sites. I mean, the board says it's aware of the many programs may have or will be facing challenges associated with obtaining and retaining pediatric clinical sites. Included in this section is a list of potential pediatric clinical sites designed to provide suggestions for possible community-based clinical sites that program faculty might explore as viable clinical placement sites to achieve program learning outcomes. So once we have determined that a site, I think I appreciate you noting that our objectives are varied and generic enough to be able to, you hope that the majority, especially of our children, are at schools, they're at daycares, that they're not all in the hospital, and that not every single nurse who ends up, a nursing student becomes a nurse, goes into a pediatric nursing acute care setting. I know I went to school nursing. So if I did not have the ability to go into a site where I could see that a student could still have a G-tube and be at a daycare, then that would have floored me. And I didn't have that opportunity because way back when I did nursing school, we just went to acute care sites. So I was quite, it kind of jarred me when I realized, wow, this is my handiwork, because as soon as they leave the hospital, they go back to school. They go back to playgrounds. They go back home trying to live a normal life. So back to this whole section, I don't see anything here where it says that we need to have a combination of acute care or community care, as long as it meets our objectives as well as our regulations. So again, thank you for noting that that is not a non-compliance issue. I take your feedback very seriously, and we're writing notes. So we will make sure to take that into consideration. But I I can't help but feel that because everything else is so good, we need to find something that's wrong. And I hope that's not the case, because truly, I mean, we are providing a really good program. Ms. Rosenblatt sees the faculty that come through also for her approval and our determination to really be compliant with everything and to offer this excellent program that I just hope we're measured with the same yardstick as every other school, whether private or not, whether community college or BSN, because at the end of the day, whatever the ELC committee approves or doesn't, but whatever, it really has to be based on, Ms. Melby, and I really appreciate that you cited that regulation at the beginning of this section, because it's only those things at the end. And I believe that we have met every single one.
Absolutely. So I'll address what was brought up. In the director's handbook, there is a section that provides possible alternative sites. And again, just for clarification, the BRN does not run any of these programs. The administration of the program is specifically left up to the program director and assistant director. And those are ideas that were kind of brought forward by various programs, shared. We provided this source of potential placements that could be utilized, but it ultimately does come down to the program in alignment with 1427 clinical facilities that says a program that utilizes an agency or facility for clinical experience shall maintain written objectives for student learning in such facilities and shall assign students only to facilities that can provide the experiences necessary to meet those objectives. So even when we provide these possibilities that a program could use, it ultimately comes down on the decision on whether or not the program schedules these out in appropriate manners to be able to meet those objectives. And again, with those objectives, we don't just look at the objectives of the clinical placement, but there's an evaluation tool that is used by the school that says you as a student have met these objectives. It is their clinical evaluation, and it is something that is taken into consideration and used in alignment. This is absolutely not a witch hunt to go out and find something that you do wrong. West Coast University has a solid program. They have longevity. Their attrition rate is okay. Their placement rates are okay. The stuff that we're supposed to be looking at in that updated section in our law clearly defines what we can look at. And one of them, again, bars us from looking at workforce needs. That has been addressed, I believe, appropriately and ad nauseum here, that we cannot consider the workforce needs. But then it also goes on to address what the board can look at. And in looking at that, we have to look at adequacy of resources, not just that they have resources, but the adequacy of them. And that is right there at the very beginning. We also need to look at the availability of clinical placements. That doesn't limit the availability of clinical placements to just that school. It is the available clinical placements in that region, in that area. And that does take that area into consideration of available for clinical placements it's not school specific. Now, complaints have been verified by the board. That is something that West Coast University has said here that they would like to know every complaint that comes in. That's not the process we do with our licensees, and that's not the process that we do with the academic institutions that we approve. There is a such thing as ongoing investigations and ongoing kind of a review process before we're able to move forward with items. And I can't speak to whether or not that has occurred or is currently going on. I would leave that up to our board's legal counsel to address that. But there are going to be times where complaints are received that a school or a nurse may not know that it occurred. What is brought forward in clear metrics are licensing exam pass rates, graduation rates, and retention rates. And considering the licensing exam pass rate, that's the NCLEX. That is taken into consideration. There's nothing in there that states that they have to be below our standard for that to be taken into consideration. But with their one campus, they are actually below our standard. With the combination of all the other campuses, they have had about a 12% decline. And that is something that should be taken into consideration. So to stick straight with the law, those are the areas. I didn't take them out of sequence. I went line by line and tried to give explanation for that and hopefully cleared up any issue that might be still outstanding.
Thank you, Lori. Any other questions or comments from the committee?
And there are, just so you guys know, and I know not everybody pays attention, there are quite a few attendees. The committee may consider opening up, or they may want to make a motion, anything that you guys want to do to try to get additional feedback on this difficult decision.
I would be very interested in hearing public comment on this item.
BRN moderator, could you take us to public comment?
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in the request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." Please remember, you will have 2 minutes to make your comments. I will not give a reminder as your time approaches. I do not want to interrupt you nor cause you to lose your train of thought. I will mute your microphone and inform you that your time has expired, and we'll move on to the next member of the public. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." Nam Tien would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. And just so everybody knows, you only have to request 1 time. I will get to you. Nam Tien, go ahead.
Members of the ELC, my name is Nam Tien, and I am a student at West Coast University, Anaheim, and a former president of our Student Nurse Association. I'm here today to ask for your support for West Coast University's application. I chose West Coast because I didn't want a wait list to prevent me from fulfilling my career goals after completing the majority. And after completing the majority of this program, I would wholeheartedly recommend it towards future students seeking to pursue nursing. I live in Long Beach, a city with an extremely diverse Asian American and Pacific Islander population. I currently work as a nursing assistant, and my ability to communicate in both Vietnamese and Cambodian helps my patients and their families. I will be graduating this January, and I plan to work in the critical care setting. I also plan to pursue my graduate education to teach. I believe that there is no greater purpose in life than to help people, and for me, nursing is the best way to do that, both at bedside and as a future educator. Please support this application so that more students can fulfill this same purpose. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. I'm sorry, Emily Kim would like to make a comment. 1 second, please.
Members, my name is Emily Kim, and thank you for this opportunity to speak before you in support of West Coast University's application. I'm a student at West Coast University's OC campus in Anaheim, and I currently work at UCI as a nursing assistant in the orthopedics unit. My call to nursing came when I was in 4th grade, and my family and I went to Korea to assist my ailing grandmother. I ended up staying to help my grandparents for over a year. It made a huge impact on my life at such a young age, and I knew then and there that being a nurse is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I speak Korean and English, and my ability to communicate in Korean with patients through speech as well as having cultural competency makes a real impact to their care. Patients often ask me to repeat instructions that they've received from their nurse or ask me additional questions and share more details about their condition that they otherwise wouldn't have shared to other people out of concern of being disrespectful in their cultural sense. I will be the first person in my family to go into healthcare, and my family is very proud. I chose West Coast after having completed my prerequisites at my community college, and I applied to several other community college nursing programs and was waitlisted at all. I was discouraged, but I had friends at West Coast University, and they shared that the professors in school personally care about you, and they help you through the program. So even though it's accelerated, you're fully supported. After spending some time at this program, I believe all of their words and advice was true, and I'm very happy with my decision to come here. I'm currently in my med-surg rotation, and my goal upon licensure is to work in critical care, but my ultimate hope is to teach or become a mentor. West Coast University has made a difference in my life, and that's why I ask for you guys to please support this application. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Kathy Hughes would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Kathy Hughes?
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I left the Kaiser strike line to participate in this agenda item specifically. So I may be difficult to be heard because there's healthcare workers striking for patient safety in the background. My name is Catherine Hughes. I'm a registered nurse and the director of the Nurse Alliance of SEIU California. I want to make it very clear that the 75,000 Kaiser workers who are out on strike are not nurses. They're allied health professionals. There may be nurses honoring the strike line. There may be a few nurses out depending on the facility, but there are not 75,000 registered nurses out on strike in California, Oregon, and other states. I also want to point out that I did receive a copy of the letter that WCU put out to state legislators asking them to support the current enrollment. I believe that letter is disingenuous and a misrepresentation of actual events. It says current enrollment and assumes that that is an approved enrollment. I've been following the BRN since 2010 when I became involved with the Nurse Alliance. We've been following WCU's actions over the course of those years. They've known full well how the approval process works. And the fact that it had to be confirmed through 2 courts of law is just astounding to me. We will never support a nursing program that continuously undermines the BRN's authority to regulate the nursing profession and nursing programs and thus protect the public. So SEIU's recommendation is not to support the current enrollment as it stands in the future. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Jesse Rogue would like to make a comment. 1 second, please.
Yeah, I'm the Chief Nursing Officer at West Hills Hospital in West Hills, California, and I'm speaking on behalf of support for West Coast University. Coincidentally, I left a mayoral lunch today with Mayor Karen Bass to discuss the growth in the San Fernando Valley to include more infrastructure, business, and the want to grow a younger population in the area. Being in the hospital, we currently serve a very large elderly population surrounded by over 800 skilled nursing facility beds, LTACs, and the like. And the need for continued support and reinforcement from our educational partners to help staff our hospitals are paramount currently in our present, as well as in the anticipated future goals of our mayor. Looking at all the other educational partners that we have, the sheer amount of support that we get from West Coast and from their graduates is very, very influential into the care and quality that we're able to deliver at the facility, and find that their partnership and their ability to continue the success of their program is eminently impacting not only my facility in the Valley, but those in the surrounding San Fernando Valley. And for that, we support West Coast University. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. West Coast University, Ontario would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. West Coast University, Ontario.
I attend the West Coast University Ontario campus, where I serve as the president of our campus chapter's California Nursing Students Association. I urge you to support this application and allow others the opportunity to become an RN, especially in the Inland Empire, where we have a nursing shortage and vulnerable communities. I grew up in a family of nursing professionals, so I explored this as a certified nursing assistant after high school. I was 19, working in a SNF, and I had a dementia patient that I grew close to, and that made me choose nursing because this profession enables me to be at the forefront of patient care and grants me significant opportunities to demonstrate autonomy and leadership while tending to patients. I'm now working as a patient safety aide at a hospital that serves low-income and aging API communities. I hope to work here as an RN upon licensure in critical care. COVID was a difficult time for me. I left San Francisco State and came home to be with family during the pandemic. I took my prerequisites at my community college, but did not want to put my education on hold and sit on a wait list, so I chose West Coast University. I found a true community here. I've been given the opportunity to take on leadership roles with the Student Association and our student-led tutoring program. My professors have made a large impact on me, not only as a crucial part in cultivating my nursing foundations, but have taught me empathy and served as mentors through my program and the tough times of COVID isolation. Please support this application so other students can have the same opportunities to serve.
Thank you for your comment. West Coast University, LA. Before I let you, do you have a comment, or is there 3 people that need comments, or is it you're putting this in there for Elizabeth Akajian and Amy Ghazi? 1 second, please. Answer that first before I let you go. As soon as I get you going here.
To be clear, this is the board's legal counsel. You don't have to identify yourself, but I think our moderator is trying to determine how many of you there are seeking to make comment from the same
correct
location, same profile. Go ahead.
There's 2 students here that would like to comment.
Okay. So you did not? You were just putting that out there for them?
Yes. We're all in the same. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So Elizabeth Akajian. I'm sorry if I messed up your name.
It's Akashian.
Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Hello, VRN members. My name is Elizabeth Akashian, and I'm a student at West Coast University's North Hollywood campus. I am currently in my advanced med-surg term and ask you to please support this application. I chose West Coast after finishing my prerequisites and taking a year off to apply to a combined 13 community colleges and Cal State University programs. But unfortunately, I did not get in. I chose West Coast because it was close to home, an accelerated program, and was highly recommended from other graduates. I now graduate in 12 weeks. As an Armenian American, I know I can make a difference as an RN. Translators at hospitals are hard to come by, and my ability to speak Armenian as a second language has allowed me to directly assist patients and families who cannot fully communicate with their providers. We need more RNs that represent the communities they care for. That is how we will improve health equity. West Coast has given me many opportunities to succeed. I am part of the campus's Nursing Student Association as the director of the mentorship program and part of the campus student council. I am also a student mentor and have been a peer tutor for multiple terms. I found a passion for teaching through these opportunities, and I hope to pursue graduate studies to teach and also work towards my DNP. Until then, I am looking to work in med-surg units where I can keep learning different areas of practice and become a highly skilled RN. Thank you for listening, and I ask for your support.
Thank you for your comment. Amy Gezi, would you like to make your comment?
Yes, please. Hello, BRN members. My name is Amy Gatey. I'm a nursing student at the North Hollywood campus of West Coast University, and I urge you to support this application. I came to attend West Coast with a group of 4 friends from Stockton, where there is a nursing and healthcare access shortage, and I plan to return upon licensure. My inspiration to practice came from my grandmother, who was a nurse, but my calling came when I had my second open heart surgery at 11 years old. I knew I wanted to be able to give back like those who helped me. Like my friends, I did my prerequisites at a community college, but chose not to suspend my education while sitting on a wait list. I decided to attend West Coast because of the accelerated program and great outcomes. West Coast has been rigorous.
Amy, did we lose you?
Uh-oh.
We're still able to hear her.
Yeah, so it might be something on your end, board moderator.
Okay.
You can go ahead and continue, Amy. Except now we cannot hear Amy.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was us.
Yeah, I can hear you.
That was here in the office. Holy wow. Okay, I apologize. Amy, let me get Amy back on there. I'm sorry.
Please, thank you. We're still going strong out here in the community. Hopefully BRN headquarters is doing well.
Okay, we're back on. So West Coast has been rigorous and nursing school is tough, but I have had an abundance of resources and professors who have made a difference supporting me and me in the beginning of the program when I struggled with the adjustment and just the pandemic itself. I am now enjoying my clinicals and will soon graduate. I'm so excited to begin my career and work towards my dream of being a pediatric nurse. Thank you for listening, and I ask for you guys' support.
Thank you for your comments. And Amy, I do apologize for that.
It's okay.
Annette Greenwood would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Annette, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, board, for the opportunity to speak on behalf of West Coast University. My name is Annette Greenwood. I am the Chief Nursing Officer at Riverside Community Hospital. We are a 517-bed acute care facility that serves the inner Riverside city and surrounding areas. Really appreciate the opportunity to share with you the wonderful aspects of the local West Coast Ontario campus and the work that they have done to provide us with graduates on a consistent basis, graduates that primarily live and work locally when they go into the program and therefore create an engaged and long-term retention group of graduates that are necessary to continue our mission here at Riverside. West Coast University at this point provides the most students to us in terms of graduates that we are able to secure. And we have the great success with the students in terms of their transition to practice. We've also been able to partner with West Coast University for a TIPS program, but also for a dedicated cohort, spending all of their time in clinical rotations here. We serve 1,100 clinical rotations, or 1,100 students that are completing clinical rotations at our hospital from multiple local educational sites. I have had nothing but pause from the graduates that West Coast produces. So from that end and from my end, in terms of wanting to serve our community and needing the valuable and precious RN cohorts that they're producing, I would like to support them in their continued journey to provide us with great registered nurses. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Paula Moorfield would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Paula, are you able to unmute? If you're on a computer, it should be in the middle of your screen or the bottom of your screen. If you're on your phone, there you go. Paula, I'll come back to you. West Coast University Ontario has a second student who would like to speak. 1 second, please.
Good afternoon. Could you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
All right. Good afternoon, BRNM members. My name is Daniel Contreras. I'm currently enrolled at the West Coast University Ontario campus. Little background story about me. I was in the Navy 8.5 years before enrolling here. I did 2 deployments in 2012 and 2013 in support of Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation New Dawn. I urge you to support this application so more non-traditional students like myself can have access to this nursing program. Being a veteran has allowed me to provide better care to senior patients that are also veterans and often too proud to share their concerns of pain with their providers because they don't want to seem as if they are complaining or weak. Knowing that they can trust me has helped me improve their lives. My calling to nursing came out of my lifelong desire to be a community helper. Originally, when I discharged from the military, I applied to become LAPD. However, I pulled my application because I felt my calling was in the nursing field. Academics have never come easy for me, and after high school, I thought the military would allow me to avoid school and get training on the job. I soon learned that higher education is necessary for advancement in whatever path you choose. My family encouraged me not to give up on my dreams, like my brother said, who just retired from LAPD. Getting started is the hardest part. So I took his advice and began prerequisites at Pasadena City College in 2020. Unfortunately, my counselor at that time said I wouldn't be able to look into a nursing program until 2023. But that was not even a guarantee. West Coast was a great option for me, and now here I am, scheduled to graduate next June. The WC program is academically hard, but my teachers and counselors have worked to help me learn, study, organize, and time management skills to be successful. My aim is to work in ICU, but overall is to become a flight nurse. As a veteran, I know I can handle the tough situations those paths will put me in, and I could deliver excellent patient care. So I request to support this. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Sharon Brown would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Hello, my name is Sharon Brown. I'm the Associate Chief Nursing Officer at Arrowhead Regional Medical Center in Colton, California. We are a 456-bed level 1 trauma and burn center, and we are also the San Bernardino County Hospital. We have worked with West Coast for several years, primarily the Ontario campus, and we depend on their students to fill our much needed vacancies. We've always been able to accommodate their request for additional clinical sites. Their students come out, they're very well prepared, they're professional, they're compassionate in their care. The other thing I'd like to add is that many of our own employees have chosen to go to West Coast for their BSN program. So I would highly support and hope you consider to keep their application active, and we will continue to support West Coast as we depend on them for a lot of things. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Paula Moorfield, we are back to you. 1 second. Paula, are you able to unmute? And it looked like we hiccuped again.
I can still hear you on our end.
Yes, my screen blinked and it said refreshing. Paul, hold on here. Paul, I'm gonna put you into the panelists. Let's see if that works for you. Hold on.
Hi.
There you go.
Hi, I'm Paula Moorfield. I'm the nursing director at LA Trade Tech College. And I just want to say, first of all, we serve our community. We are in the heart of LA. And we don't have all the resources because our tuition is $46 a unit. So we don't have the big funds that West Coast has to be able to have this 200 plus student increase. But we do serve our community. We are producing nurses that are going out into the hospital settings that are looking like the community that they come from. And I am not, I'm against West Coast being able to have this increase in students. Because it's just not okay. The conglomerate, taking clinical spaces for community colleges, which our hands are tied because we're a community college and we're not able to just grab funds from other places to be able to, or from tuition to be able to, give all those different resources that West Coast has. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Molly Ham would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Go ahead, Molly.
Hi. My name is Molly Ham, faculty from Marshall First School of Nursing. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm against to West Coast University. I haven't verified, but I've heard from many other faculty that West Coast schedule all the clinical sites day, evening, night, so they cannot schedule any rotation. If the board approve, that will give a huge negative impact to all other nursing program. That's why. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you for your comment. Committee Chair. Oh my gosh, I apologize. I'm having a breakdown. Board President Trujillo. There are no other public requests for comments. Would you like me to close this window? Yes. Sorry.
Okay. Yes, please. Thank you.
Sorry, Jovita. Committee Chair Dominguez.
I am good. No problem. So we've heard from public comment. So committee members, what are your thoughts?
At this time, I think it's time for a motion.
May I just make a comment before the motion?
Sure. Go ahead.
I'm not prepared at this point to approve this request. I feel a certain amount of unfairness at the way it's come to us. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty surprised that West Coast University isn't even aware that they might be affecting other programs' placements. I mean, it's kind of shocking because every single time we deal with a request for an increase in enrollment, we hear about at least an awareness that you're competing with other programs in the vicinity. I just can't help but think that this enormous enrollment increase disadvantages other programs. So I am not prepared to vote for this today. I wouldn't necessarily oppose this, but I do think that maybe it should go to the full board rather than just the three of us. So I would consider supporting a motion that we defer action today and go to the board? Okay, so I'm going to make that motion. I move that we defer action today on this item and that we agendize it for the board meeting in November so that the full board can look at this.
Can we take that as a motion, or do we need more to that, Lori?
That's a motion. If someone wants to second it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Okay, so
second. Who made the second?
I think Dolores did.
I will second.
Thank you.
So let's, I think we already went to public comment.
Yes,
so,
we did.
Okay, I will vote yes. Committee member Trujillo
Yes, I vote yes.
and committee member Trisha.
Yes.
Okay, we will table for next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item 8.9.1. Discussion and possible action regarding an initial self-study for a pre-licensure nursing program. The first program coming forward with their initial self-study is Lassen Community College Associate Degree Nursing Program. Their information is on page 80 in page 60 in packet 2. And board moderator, if you could please elevate presenters on the list for Lassen. In February of 2023, the board accepted the feasibility study for Lassen Community College. Lassen is located in Susanville, California. They are here today for the approval of their initial self-study. The program has requested an enrollment pattern of 40 students every 2 years. This consists of 30 generic students starting in 2024 and 10 additional LVN to RN advanced placement students in the spring of 25. This will give them a biannual enrollment of 40 students going forward. The agenda item summary is on page 60, which includes more details. And on page 61, you'll see the regional data for Region 1, which is where they're located for the past 5 years. The program is here should you have any questions. Thank you.
And then just for a reset from the prior agenda items, which were enrollment increase request or substantive change request outlined in 1432. These next two agenda items, 8.9 and 8.10, sorry, are related to new programs getting approved. And so this first section that talk about acceptance of the initial self-study, what that means is that this committee or board has already heard the feasibility, has voted to accept the feasibility, saying that it is okay for them to move forward with establishing a nursing program in that area. And the last process of that approval is that the nursing education consultant will review the program, look at their resources, and be able to show that they are in compliance with all rules and regulations. Upon the acceptance of this self-study, a new nursing program will begin, and students can start to enroll in these programs. 8.10 are feasibility studies, and that is entities that are beginning this process. So you're seeing the end process first. 8.10, those are facilities that are beginning the process that are asking for the initial review to hear from the board whether or not they can move forward with establishing a program. So hopefully that provided some clarification and we can move forward with this.
I think this is an area that really needs some type of program and training. I am prepared to move forward with it. Does the committee members have any? Okay, Jovita?
I'm for it too.
Okay.
Yeah, me too. And in fact, I really wanted to say the staff write-up on this was very, very clear. I mean, it really made it easy for me to understand. I haven't seen a lot of these items before, so thank you very much for, you know, a really good staff report here.
All right.
So should we take it for a motion then? We recommend to grant approval of the application of a new pre-licensure registration nursing program with the acceptance of the initial self-study for Layson Community College Associate Degree Nursing Program. The approval enrollment pattern is as mentioned, or Marianne, what? Okay,
40 students.
that's all. Thank you.
Yeah.
The program applicant has requested an enrollment of 40 students every 2 years, 30 generic students starting spring of 2024, and 10 LVN to RN advanced placement students in spring for the biennial enrollment of 40 students going forward. Anybody would like to second?
I'll second. This is Dolores.
Okay, thank you. Can we go to public comment?
Sure.
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." Please remember, you will have 2 minutes to make your comments. I will not give a reminder as your time approaches. I do not want to interrupt you nor cause you to lose your train of thought. I will mute your microphone and inform you that your time has expired, and we'll move on to the next member of the public. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." Committee Chair Dominguez, there are no public requests for comments. Would you like me to close this window?
Yes, please. Thank you. I would like to take it for a vote. I, Jovita Dominguez, votes yes. Committee member Dolores Trujillo.
Dolores Trujillo votes yes.
Committee member Trisha Nguyen.
Nguyen, yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Agenda item 8.9.2, discussion and possible action regarding initial self-study of a pre-licensure nursing program. This is for High Desert Medical College in Lancaster, California. The information on this program can be found starting on page 86 of packet 2. And board moderator, if you could please elevate the presenters on the list for High Desert. The feasibility for High Desert Lancaster was accepted by the board in August of 2023. They are here today for approval of their initial self-study. The program is requesting an enrollment pattern of 30 generic students annually in 2024, then 30 generic students plus 20 LVN to RN advanced placement students starting in 25. Then continuing their annual enrollment of 50 students, which would be 30 generic and 20 advanced placement going forward. The agenda item summary on pages 68 and 69 include more details. And this program borders on regions 8 and 6. And those are on pages 70 and 71, and that shows those 2 regions and all the activity that has happened in the past 5 years. The program is here, should you have any questions. Thank you.
Any other committee members have questions or concerns?
It's an area with growth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't have any concern with this one.
I don't have any concerns, no. It
Okay.
is an area.
Let's make a motion. I recommend on the application for the new pre-licensure registered nursing program with acceptance of the initial self-study for High Desert Medical College Associate Degree Nursing Program in Lancaster. The approval enrollment pattern for the program applicant has requested an enrollment pattern of 30 generic students annually in January 2024, followed by the enrollment pattern of 30 generic students and 20 LVN to RN advanced placement students starting January 2025, with a continuing annual enrollment of 50 students, 30 generic and 20 LVN to RN advanced placements going forward. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Tricia.
Real quick, just for clarification, it cut out on my end, so I'm not sure if it cut out anybody else. But you said recommend granting.
Oh,
correct.
I thought that it's possible. Let's see.
Okay. I just want to make sure that
program
granting the application, correct? The approval of the
Yes,
application?
Okay. Yes, we are. I was reading the second paragraph. All right. And then
it on my end. So thank you for just
no worries.
Clarification. I wanted to make sure that that was captured in the meeting minutes.
Yes, I appreciate that. And I believe we can go to public comment. BRN moderator, thank you.
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." Please remember, you will have 2 minutes to make your comments. I will not give a reminder as your time approaches. I do not want to interrupt you nor cause you to lose your train of thought. I will mute your microphone and inform you that your time has expired, and we'll move on to the next member of the public. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." Committee Chair Dominguez, there are no public requests for comments. Would you like me to close this window?
Yes, please. Thank you. And I, Jovita Dominguez, votes yes. Committee Chair, Committee Member Dolores Trujillo.
Dolores Trujillo votes yes.
Committee Member Tricia Nguyen.
Nguyen, yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Next agenda item, item number 8.9.3, discussion and possible action regarding initial self-study for a new pre-licensure program. This is for United Nursing College, an associate degree nursing program. Information on this program can be found starting on page 78 of packet 2. And board moderator, if you would please elevate the presenters on the list for United Nursing. The feasibility study for United Nursing College, which is in Marietta, California, was accepted by the board in August of 2023. They are here today for approval of their initial self-study. The program is now requesting the enrollment pattern of 40 students, 40 generic students, and 20 LVN to RN advanced placement, an increase of 15 advanced placement students twice a year, with the continuing annual enrollment of 120 students going forward. This is an increase of 30 students annually from what was presented and accepted in the feasibility study. The agenda item summary on page 78 and 79 includes more detail, and page 80 has the data for Region 7, which is where they're located for the past 5 years. The program is here should you have any questions. Thank you.
Committee members, do you have questions?
I don't. We talked about this program in August, I believe.
Yes.
And they went and they got an acute care hospital.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I don't have any questions.
A committee member Nguyen?
No, I have no questions. I'm comfortable with this.
Okay, then I would like to recommend on the application for new pre-licensure registered nursing program with acceptance. recommend granting, yes.
Yes.
Thank you, committee member Dolores. On the application for a new pre-licensure registered nursing program with acceptance of a initial self-study for United Nursing College Associate's Degree Nursing Program. The approval enrollment pattern is the program applicant has requested an enrollment pattern of 40 generic students and 20 LVN to RN, which an increase of 15 LVN to RN students twice a year starting in January 2024.
So
with a continuing annual enrollment of 120 students going forward. Do I have a second?
I want to interrupt here really quick because as this might not be very clear. So in the feasibility, what was asked was a lesser number for initial enrollment. This is an increased number from the feasibility that was just requested. And so that's why you'll see in the parens right there that it says an increase of 15 LVN to RN students twice a year, and that this is an increase of 30 students annually. So in the feasibility study, what the board agreed to in August was 40 generic students and 5 LVN to RN students. The program director at that point came into comment and said that they are requesting this updated number. And we did give them this path forward. They could ask for that at this board meeting, or they could get approved from the original feasibility and then ask about it at an upcoming meeting after they've had the approval. So I want to make sure that that is called out. They are following the process that was outlined to them, but I want to make sure that our board has an understanding of what this is. Not only is it a granting of a new program based on what you guys accepted as a feasibility, but it is also asking for an enrollment increase from what you guys granted as part of the feasibility study. So if you wanted it to remain at what was approved at the feasibility study, it was 40 generic and 5 LVN. If you want to grant the increased number that is being requested right now, it is 40 generic and 20 LVN. And that is an increase of 30 students annually, 15 each enrollment cycle over what the board approved as requested in the initial feasibility study.
The original feasibility study numbers are what I'm inclined to go with for now.
Okay, so
I would be open, yes, for that.
Okay, so just so you guys are very clear, that would not be what
Thank you, Lori.
Okay, so when you guys do this motion, you would make the motion and then you would insert what you guys are approving, which would not be what the program is asking.
So the original number was 40 and 5, correct?
40 and 5, correct.
Yeah.
Twice a year.
I see you, Julie. Hold on.
Being 90 versus 120.
And I would like to give the program director or the dean a chance to speak.
Sure.
Hi, thank you for hearing us and thank you for reviewing our initial self-study. I did want to touch on the number of students. We wrote our feasibility study over a year ago, and it took that long to be able to get on the agenda and get things heard and move forward. So when we originally did our feasibility study, we did ask for just 5 LVNs with each cohort. We did change it prior to going to the feasibility meeting. However, on the front page, it was incorrect. On page, I believe it was 104 and 105 that I mentioned, it showed the correct numbers of 40 and 20. So I'd like to refer you to those original numbers. And we do have the faculty, we have the clinical spots, we have the classrooms, the simulation, the supplies, and the resources to have those extra LVNs in that second year to be able to provide those to the community as well once they finish as registered nurses. So I do want to ask respectfully that you consider what we discussed prior to this meeting of 40 generic and 20 LVN to RN students. Thank you.
Yeah, so that is correct that when this was brought up in the last meeting, we did make mention that this could be a path forward for them to ask for that clarification. One, just process-wise for our board, so that you guys understand what occurred there. She mentioned that it took a year for them to get on the agenda. That is accurate. This program had to go through a couple name changes, as well as receive approval through the BPPE, which is the Bureau of Private Post-Secondary Education. The times that they were wanting to come forward previous to that, they had not met all the requirements that are outlined in the initial program approval steps. One of them being BPPE approval. We were told that they expected BPPE approval in January of this year of 2023, and that was not accurate when we verified at BPPE. So we did ask them to wait until they were able to get BPPE approval. There was some longer processing times with BPPE because they did have to change their name a couple times for them to get into compliance with that. So there was no red flags raised. So I want to make sure that that is clear in why it took long. It was just kind of a process part that did that. And that wasn't a delay on BRN's side at all. We were waiting for them to come in compliance to be able to bring them forward.
Thank you, Lori, for that. This is Trisha. I guess I would say I totally respect Jovita and Dolores for the motion and the second, but I would probably be willing to go along with the increase in the LVN to RN students. I think of them as different. They're advanced placements. They're probably working. There's probably less impact to other programs, but I am going to go along with whatever you two think is right.
So your thoughts, Dolores?
Hey, I got to go to my assignment. See you.
Are you there, Dolores?
Sorry,
You're
I
on
didn't
mute.
realize I was mute.
Oh, okay. I'm
Yeah, I
glad
was
we didn't
muted.
lose you.
Initially, I had understood the numbers to be 40 and 5. I did think about, I remember the conversation about coming back with the second set of numbers, but I thought they would come back after we approved the original set of 40 and 5. So now,
It is 45 students versus 60 students twice a year. It is a difference of 15 twice a year. They are LVN to RN students. Can you let me know in your curriculum plan what courses they might be getting credit for as a group, or are they being reviewed on an individual basis for the LVN to RN step up?
They're being reviewed on an individual basis, but they will be given credit for their LVN work as long as it meets the requirements of the BRN. They also have their general education unless they're a 30-unit option. We also have prepared workshops for them so that they will be prepared going into the second year. We realize the needs of the LVN. While they're seasoned in what they do, it's not quite where they need to be in that second year. And I've worked with them before, and we realized that there's a little bit extra that they need to go along. So we've prepared workshops so that they can refresh in Med-Surg, Gero, Peds, and OB, and all those courses that they typically get in the first year of the nursing program. And so they'll also look at the theory, but they'll look at the skills too. They'll be able to become competent in those skills prior to entering the third semester.
So it looks like they will be starting in the second year. Is that correct? And skipping that first year, but they will also receive an evaluation to ensure that you guys are able to meet their needs to ensure that they're competent entering those semesters. Is that accurate?
Correct. So, every student is going to be evaluated individually, as is something that we've always done. I've always done, in other colleges as well. However, we're also offering the workshops so that they can be able to gain any additional needs that they may have. So if we identify different gaps, we can recommend the workshops to them as well. They will be given credit as is required for their LVN training as long as it meets the requirements. And also the general education. So if they meet those requirements and they've been identified to have gaps, we will be meeting with them and working with them in the workshop so they'll have that skill and that theory to be able to be successful. We know that they need a little bit extra, and we want to be able to make sure that they're successful when they finish that 4th semester.
Thank you.
Do I have the what is Trisha and Dolores, what are your thoughts?
I'll go along with the increase. Only
Okay,
because
so-
it's LVN to RN.
Yeah. Okay, then if do I have to repeat the motion, Lori?
I'll go ahead and just make sure that it's clear. So you're recommending granting the application for the new pre-licensure registered nursing program by accepting their self-study, and the enrollment pattern will be 40 generic students and 20 LVN students twice a year, starting January 2024, with a continued annual enrollment of 120 students going forward. Did I capture that accurately?
Very well. Thank you
Yes.
very much.
So Jovita, that was your first. Did we have a second on that?
I don't remember if it was Trisha that second.
I'll
I
second.
had down Dolores, but you guys tell
Oh,
me.
sorry,
who it
Dolores,
was.
Dolores second. Thank you.
But we need to check because I want to make sure it's correct. Is that okay with you, Trisha? Was
Yes,
it Dolores?
yes,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
That was.
Okay, then BRN moderator, may we go to public comment?
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." Please remember, you will have 2 minutes to make your comments. I will not give reminders as time approaches. I do not want to interrupt you nor cause you to lose your train of thought. I will mute your microphone and inform you that your time has expired, and we'll move on to the next member of the public. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." Committee Chair Dominguez, there are no requests for public comment. Would you like me to close this window?
Yes, please. I, Jovita Dominguez, would like to vote yes. Committee member Dolores Trujillo.
Yes, Dolores Trujillo votes yes.
Thank you.
Trisha Wynn
And then,
votes yes.
thank you, ladies. Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Now we're going to transition to feasibility studies. So feasibility studies are what those 3 programs that you just heard about went through first. That's the first major step so that they can then, if they're approved, they can move forward to the self-study stage and getting ready to start a program. But this is the initial version or the initial time that they're coming forward with their initial feasibility study. So agenda item 8.10.1 is discussion and possible action regarding a feasibility study for a new pre-licensure nursing program. And the first program is California North State University Baccalaureate Degree Nursing Program. The information on this program can be found starting on page 88 of packet 2. And board moderator, if you could please elevate the presenters on the list for California North State. Woo, sorry about that. California North State has submitted a feasibility study for a BSN program at their Rancho Cordova campus in Northern California. The program is requesting an enrollment pattern of 30 students 3 times a year for an annual enrollment of 90 students. The agenda item summary is on page 88 through 90, which includes more details. And this program is also in Region 1, which is on page 91, that talks about the things that have been accepted or denied in the past 5 years in Region 1. The program representatives are available for questions. Thank you.
And then just as a reminder to you guys, this is the first time the board or committee, sorry, is hearing anything on these schools, different from the prior one where you guys had already gone through this process. And this was just whether or not the committee, whether or not the NECs were able to verify that they were in compliance with all rules and regs. So this is the very first time that these schools are coming in front of the committee for consideration for them to move forward with starting a new nursing program.
Do any of the committee members have questions?
Tricia, you're on mute.
I'm wondering about, I know this is Northern California. I'm wondering about clinical space here. While it's not as bad as Southern California, do they have an idea? Do they have an idea of what clinical sites they will be using? Can I ask
Yes,
that?
they do. They do have to submit that in their paperwork. They have to have signed documents as part of it.
I don't remember seeing.
Page 90 of this book, Dolores, there's a section that says clinical sites. And I know it's been a long day and you've prepped for all of these. It just might be blurring together. So on page 90 is clinical sites, and you can read some of the stuff that they have planned for that.
Thank you. And I'm sorry I was on mute. My question was, how long does this feasibility period last?
So that's dependent on the program themselves mostly. So we plan for the entire approval process to be a 1-year process.
Okay.
6 months for them to go through feasibility, 6 months to go through self-study. What does happen sometimes is some programs get their feasibility study turned into us right away. They've met all compliances and we can review those and move those forward. Other times, like was mentioned at the previous agenda item, they have a difficult time. It's kind of compacted in that feasibility phase. And so they can't get everything brought forward yet, and that delays them. The same thing happens with self-studies. Self-studies, if they turn it in and the review goes well, it could be right about 6 months. If they take until that 6-month mark to turn it in, then it still takes the NEC a lengthy amount of time to review it and get it ready to bring to the board with some back and forth that might occur. So we plan for 1 year, best case scenario, to go through feasibility and self-study, but there have been times where boards, we've brought back to the board to ask for extensions.
Okay, thanks very much. That's helpful.
And typically we ask them if they're not ready in a year that they need to let us know, so that we don't, I mean, we check with them periodically, but we don't want it just to go on forever. So we want to ask for an extension in a reasonable amount of time so that they can move forward.
Looks like they're planning a teaching hospital also. Did I read that correctly?
Yeah, that's in a separate, that's outside of this. Of course, in the medical realm, they're talking about, and how that would help them with their clinical placements in the future.
Is there any questions or comments from our committee?
No, I'm good with that. Do you want to make the motion?
Trish?
Yes, you want me to make a motion?
No. I didn't hear whether
I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it.
Okay, well, I'll make the motion. Motion to recommend acceptance of a feasibility study for a new pre-licensure nursing program, California North State University Baccalaureate Degree Nursing Program, with a projected enrollment pattern of 30 students 3 times a year for an annual enrollment of 90 students, and a projected start in the fall 2024, pending completion of the requirements set forth is in 16 CCR 1421, application for approval including board acceptance of a self-study demonstrating that it meets the requirements of section 1424 through 1432, and sections 2786.6A and B of the code. Do I have a second?
Jovita seconds.
Thank you. BRN moderator, can you please open it for public comment?
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." Please remember, you will have 2 minutes to make your comments. I will not give a reminder as time approaches. I do not want to interrupt you nor cause you to lose your train of thought. I will mute your microphone and inform you that your time has expired, and we'll move on to the next member of the public. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." Board President Trujillo, there are no public requests for comments. Would you like me to close this window?
Yes, thank you.
So some real quick information on the teaching hospital. I did a quick Google search, and it says that they are looking at doing a 7,500 square foot teaching hospital with a level 2 trauma center.
Yep.
It'll have 260 beds, including 30 ICU beds, with additional 30 beds that can be flexed up to the ICU level. It will also have 39 ER beds, 2 trauma care rooms with its own CT scan rooms. It's planned to be 12 stories tall with a state-of-the-art design for efficient and quality patient care. It will offer intensive, acute, elective, and concierge medical care.
Wow. Okay, do we want to take a vote?
Yes, Jovita Dominguez votes yes. Committee member Dolores Trujillo.
Dolores Trujillo votes yes.
Committee member Trisha Wynn.
Trisha Wynn, yes.
Thank you.
And thank you, Lori, for that information.
Yeah, that's
yeah, it looks like they're creating their own clinical sites.
Yeah, good for them.
Yeah.
Okay, agenda item 8.10.2 is another feasibility study. Discussion and possible action regarding a feasibility study for a new pre-licensure nursing program. This is Homestead School's Associate Degree Nursing Program. Their information can be found starting on page 98 of Packet 2. And Board Moderator, would you please elevate the presenters on the list for Homestead? Homestead has submitted a feasibility study for an Associate Degree Nursing Program in Torrance, California. The program is requesting an enrollment pattern of 30 students in the fall of 24, 60 students in the fall of 25, and 90 students in the fall of 26, and thereafter. So they're going to, when they get to 2026, they want to keep their 90 students annually. The agenda item summary is on pages 98 through 100, which has more details. And on page 101, there is data on Region 8, which is the Los Angeles area, where you can see the amount of changes that have happened in that area. The program is here, should you have any questions. Thank you.
The concern is that it's in LA, so
Region 8.
Yeah, okay.
We denied a couple of universities. We denied Stanbridge University down there for an increase of 20 students, and American Career College, we denied 120.
Right, and this is another 90, and they say that they have secured 23, and I wonder where those 23 are, because we know how impacted it is. So maybe we could hear from the applicant.
This is also just why you guys are waiting to hear from the applicant. There was a previous feasibility study that was brought forward from a different program for the LA area, and the board did mention that the feasibility study would have been better accepted in a different location other than the LA area. And that school did do work and find a separate location. So that kind of all happened in this specific area.
Adele or Raphael, are you on?
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are here.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Would you like to address the question?
Yeah, good afternoon first to the committee chair and committee members. And yeah, with regards to that question, this school has secured a total of 23 clinical placement with signed ADP-101 to support the required clinical hours for medical, surgical, OB/PED, psych, mental, and geriatrics. And each area has placement sufficient to support clinical training of an average size student cohort, 8 to 10 students. And we have submitted the 23 clinical sites that included 5 acute hospitals, and they have expressed their commitment to accept our proposed students and the remaining from the skilled nursing facilities from our Torrance area. And the school is continuing to work to secure more clinical placement following the BRN approval of its ADN program as backup sites to ensure that there is no significant break in the educational process. And along with this, we made collaborations and coordination efforts which have been done to prevent clinical displacement of other existing registered nursing programs. Actually, we sent out letters to some program directors, and some program directors expressed their concern about the impact of their clinical placement. And we made assurance with them that we are going to make sure that their students will not be displaced as we are going to add more clinical placement. But for now, as the record shows, we have secured enough sufficient clinical placement facilities for our requested enrollment.
So some of the information that he was addressing right there is straight from our approval process. And when you look at with the feasibility, it says we have a note on there with evidence of available clinical placements for students in the proposed program. It says to include a list of the clinical facilities that may be utilized for learning experiences, and when available, verification shall include the accommodations specifying shift and dates. And then there's a note. And it says clinical placements of the new program must take into consideration the impact on the use of the clinical facility by existing pre-licensure registered nursing programs and must be coordinated with any process for clinical placements, such as consortium for regional planning. Include a description of your collaboration and coordinating efforts with any existing registered nursing program in any regional planning consortium. There are many nursing programs in that specific area. That is something that does need to be considered. We have National University, El Camino College, Los Angeles Southwest, Compton College, LA Harbor College, American University of Health Sciences, Cal State University, Long Beach City College, Cerritos College. I can go on and on, just in that general vicinity. And I could share with you guys again on that map. If you just give me 1 second here to pull that up for you guys. There we go. And this is where, we really come in and start looking at the impact in the LA, Orange County areas. There's just a multitude of programs.
Are you able to make it any bigger, Loretta?
I'm going to see if it can go bigger. Yeah, right now it's not.
Okay, if it won't, that's okay. But it would help for us to be able to see where your cursor is.
It's
there you go.
There you go. And so I believe it was Torrance.
Torrance.
Torrance, yeah.
So you can see here Torrance, and then you can see all of these little blurps. Here are the colleges. I did forget, sorry. Charles Drew is also located there. So you can see, like, in this specific vicinity, there is a lot of universities and colleges, both private and public, both, you know, ADN, BSN, entry level. They're kind of all over this area here. So just so you guys can kind of put eyes on it.
Yeah, this one does seem a lot more difficult than the last one we looked at. We know that this is a highly impacted area. We've turned down increases. I mean, I guess I'm kind of torn. This is a feasibility study, but I don't want to raise anybody's expectations that if we agree to let you go forward with a feasibility study, that it shows that we're in favor of it, because the chances are pretty good we wouldn't approve it with 90 students, you know, with very difficult placement options. So I just want to put that on the record.
And that's consistent with what we did, I believe, at the February meeting. The February meeting, the feasibility was acceptable. However, the location was the issue and the impact of the clinicals in that location. And so it was requested by, I believe it was deferred to the board, and then the board requested that this program, potential program, applicant come forward with a different location. And that applicant did exactly that and was actually just approved at this last meeting with their feasibility in a location that was much more east than where they began, using different clinical sites. So they were in more of, I believe, the Apple Valley area versus the LA kind of central area. So if you guys are having concerns with that, one of the options could be is that you would not recommend acceptance of this feasibility study, and you can give the program guidance to look, you know, in an area that can support them without having the clinical impact to the other colleges and universities around them. The other thing that you could do is defer taking any action today and move it to the full board for the board to take that consideration in and make that motion of how they want to proceed with that at the full board. That would be consistent with what occurred earlier this year with a separate feasibility study.
I would be inclined to do that. How would I word it, Lori? Would I say
Before we
I'm
do
sorry?
the motion, before we do the motion, I would like to ask the school. Is the school still on here?
Yes, they are.
We are here.
Okay.
They just don't have a camera. It's the one that says Adele.
Okay, great. Would you be inclined to consider a different location?
Yes, we are.
We are.
But from the facility verification forms that we submitted, most of them are within our vicinity, and in the section that says provide the following information on other schools utilizing your facility, majority of the forms said none. No other schools are utilizing these facilities.
Interesting. I don't know if there's anybody in public comment for this agenda item.
Well, we have to open it.
Yeah, before we make the motion.
BRN moderator. Oh, thank you.
Are you ready for me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." Please remember, you will have 2 minutes to make your comments. I will not give a reminder as your time approaches. I do not want to interrupt you nor cause you to lose your train of thought. I will mute your microphone and inform you that your time has expired, and we'll move on to the next member of the public. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." Indiana McClellan would like to make a comment. 1 second, please.
My name is Indiana McClellan. I'm from Los Angeles Southwest College, which is in that area, and also was noted on the map. That may be correct that when he goes to facility that they said none, because we were experiencing, and we still are, where there are schools that different schools are coming in where they taken the sites for the facility from the facilities from the hospital, and we're denied, where we are not allowed back in. There's multiple hospitals in that area that I'm currently working with to try to get back in since the pandemic. And one person said that the pandemic allowed them to restructure. So it's very hard for us to get back in, but there is other schools, like one that was mentioned earlier. I was trying to unmute to get into the public comment earlier, that when I asked who is there, because in the area it's my graduates. So my graduates have reached out to me and said, "Hey, how come you guys are not in the facility?" So there's a reason why we're not there, and I'm working on getting back into several facilities, which right now, because we were blocked from the facility, because they restructured and changed the clinical makeup of the schools that was there. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Committee Chair Dominguez, there are no other public requests for comments. Would you like me to close this window?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you. So to also interject and kind of follow up on that public comment, a lot of times what we find out at the BRN by listening to stakeholders, hearing public comment, having people reach out. If you look even on our earlier items in our agenda, when you're looking at the progress reports in that table, it talks about clinical issues and that there's clinical impaction where they lose clinical sites, where they've had to decrease enrollments. There are many things that happen as this is incredibly fluid. And depending on who you speak to at healthcare agencies, sometimes they don't have the entire picture, and they may be newer to the employment role, or newer filling out this form, or may not have a complete understanding of what they're doing. And so this has been kind of an ongoing issue for our board. Our board, we have been utilizing these forms. We are going to a different system, hopefully in this next year, where we'll be able to pull reports to show who are at what clinical sites. In the materials that were submitted to the NEC for review, there was many clinical sites that could have been potential opportunities for this school. Some acute care hospitals, Kaiser, Kindred, Long Beach Memorial, there's many. And those are, when you do look at our other schools, they are absolutely clinical facilities that our other schools utilize. And so even though we will get forms on these EDP 18s that are signed by the healthcare institution that say they're not impacting other schools and they're not causing displacement, that really falls on the program to make sure that that is ensured. And reaching out to other area colleges and universities is absolutely appropriate. It looks like they did do an attempt to reach out. They did get feedback from at least one where it does show that there would be displacement, and they are working on making sure that that doesn't happen, and they chose to not use that placement, which is commendable. Thank you for that. The other thing that comes up with that is exactly what the public comment said, is they may not be in that facility right at that time because there was some kind of an issue where they lost that clinical facility, whether it be temporary, whether anything that happens can come up. We've had these conversations as we updated regs around this and everything. So with that, it is imperative that our board and our NECs understand that the EDPP 18, when somebody says that it's not causing displacement, is not the final tool that is utilized when evaluating this. And that there are much more bigger items to be taken into consideration, including hearing directly from our programs, directly from people in public comment that say, hey, that's not accurate. One of the things the board had us do previously was they asked the NECs to reach out to all area schools and with the programs to see if they would cause displacement. And that used to be a practice that was done. Then there was a lot of arguments around whether or not that information coming from the other schools were biased or not. So they were saying that maybe the community colleges sided with each other and tried to out the private colleges, and the private colleges maybe sided with each other and tried to push out the community colleges. It went both ways. It was not any clear path forward. And so the other option that the board considered was having the NEC reach out directly to each one of the clinical sites to verify that they would not be causing displacement. Again, this has been long standing, where the board has tried desperately to get accurate information on who is at each clinical placement, who is being upset, who is being pushed out, who is being moved around. The one thing I do want to really redirect you guys back to is on our website. And I'm going to share here with you guys really quick. We do an annual survey out to our programs every year. And obviously I said annual, so I'm totally kind of double speaking here. I apologize. It's the last agenda item for a very long day. And if you go to our BRN school survey interactive dashboard, and hopefully my computer bears with me and loads as it should. It probably won't, so you guys are welcome to follow along on your own. So with that, there's a wealth of information here. It talks about the number of programs, enrollment, breaks it down by race and gender. If you continue to scroll to the right, you will also get information that shows where nursing programs have stated that they have had a loss in clinical placements, hence clinical displacement, clinical impaction. And I'm just, again, waiting for it to scroll and move. So it's pretty slow real time right now just because I have everything else loading here. But that is where you guys can look at evidence that shows that these areas, that schools in these locations are currently affected, which will help you guys to make decisions based on evidence while we continue to improve our collection of data, improve our reporting out of data. But we do have data that is able to be used today that starts. And again, I'm continuing to kind of scroll and hope it catches up, but I did want to share that with you. It is separated by region. There is an area here that will show where that is, and that is something that the committee members, as well as the board members, as well as the public, if you're looking at starting a new program and you want to know where you can be most effective, this is a tool that you guys can utilize to show what are the things that are coming out of these reports that then show that there might be some issues with having an effect. You can see here, the one that's up, that there has been a strong increase in student census by year. That's fantastic. That shows that we are addressing a lot of the issues and everything that's going on there. They talk about employment in California, denied spaces. So as we get here, this is really the form here. And you're going to see that the programs that are denied clinical placements are here in the orange line. You will obviously see a larger peak because that was COVID, so it is kind of abnormal, but you can see that it hasn't recovered. So just what that public member was stating is that it hasn't recovered. You can see that 2018, 2019 was 53% of the programs denied a clinical placement, where we're now at 61%. Programs did have alternative sites that were offered kind of throughout this process. You could see how it went up a little bit, but now it's even dropped down to about 12% for alternative sites. And then programs with fewer students allowed for a placement. That was a big issue as well. And so you kind of maintained this kind of up and down sawtooth pattern here prior to COVID. And you could see that even though they had current clinical placements, they were able to accept fewer students. And so it peaked during COVID at 76% and 82%, but we still have 62% of the programs being affected by this. And so I wanted to make sure that that was there for denial of clinical placements. And then here it is clinical spaces lost and students impacted. And you can see here that the number of students impacted right now in the last reporting period, and again, we're going out for a new reporting period right now. We'll be reporting data because it is a retrospective, is 5,163 students that have been affected, which is still an increase from prior to COVID, 2,271 students. And so this here is data that is really good for you guys to use. The other thing here is reasons for clinical spaces being unavailable. And you can see here that, it was a sharp uptick. You can see this is new data collected from COVID where they talked about PPE and staffing. But then you can see here competition for clinical spaces due to increase in number of nursing students in the region. That's the displacement that we talk about. And we're at 37%. Closure or partial closure of clinical facilities. We have heard in the past that there are hospitals that are closing, etc., going on. And then we still have the displacement of another program and by another program. And so that's where nursing schools are displacing other nursing schools. We have 25% consistently reported over the last 2 years. And so these here, there are also the one that we hear constantly is the no longer accepting ADN students at 10%, also aligning with the clinical facilities seeking magnet status, usually go hand in hand. That's at 10%. But you can scroll down here and you can see kind of other factors. But I want to make sure that you guys see that 92 nursing programs reported reasons for denial of clinical placements. That is a very large number, especially taking into consideration that we have about 150 programs that we approve. So here is data that our board can use at any point going forward with any of these decisions so that you can feel that you have an okay understanding why we work to improve our information and get that out and shared.
Thank you, Lori.
When we approach these healthcare facilities to fill up and complete the forms, they made commitment to us that they will prioritize our students for this proposed program in case there are other schools that will utilize their facilities. And in fact, to date, we keep on receiving additional facilities, okay, from acute hospitals and some nursing facilities in our vicinity that can be added That's why we are trying to continuously secure more clinical facilities for this proposed program. And if it's needed, we are ready to find other additional locations from other areas.
I would like to defer making a decision on this.
I second the motion.
Oh,
Jovita.
was it me? I'm just thinking out loud.
I know this is a hard decision, and I think we need all the
decision.
members.
Yeah. Very
So,
difficult.
Dolores, as you were thinking out loud and Jovita thought that was a motion, I just want to make sure that I clarify. Are you making a motion that says you're
Yes, I am.
to the full board?
Yeah, I would like to defer this feasibility study, decision for this feasibility study to the full board.
And Jovita, did you second that, just for clarification?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
And thank you. BRN moderator, could we take this to public comment?
I think we had public comment, didn't we?
Oh, gosh. Okay, I'm
Anybody
losing
new?
track.
Is there anybody new in public comment? I don't think so. Hey, look.
So then we're safe to vote. I vote yes. Jovita Dominguez. Committee member Dolores.
Dolores
Cecilia?
Trujillo, yes.
And committee member Trisha Wynn.
Win, yes.
Motion carries. I believe we are ready to adjourn. 8.11. Thank you, Dr. McCarthy.
Thank you, everyone.
You're welcome.
Thank you all. See you in November.
See you in November.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.